Sorry I had to come on here early today, guys. I hope I still get a few people to join me, regardless of it being 20 minutes early. I'm going to adjust my camera a little bit. Let's see. I think that's a little better. I don't know. I feel like it's zoomed in on me for some reason. Really weird. So yeah, I'm sorry I had to get on here early this morning. My son's in a Shakespeare show I mentioned a few weeks ago, and their practice starts at noon instead of 12:30 like it used to. So I have to do it a half an hour early, and I'm late, of course, because it's only 20 minutes early, but it is going to be what it's going to be. So I'm glad to see there are a few people here. So that's a relief because I was hoping that you guys wouldn't miss me. I didn't get a chance to update in my Facebook group. So I hope there's nobody going to be disappointed that they missed out on that. I did put it on Instagram, but not on the Facebook group because I just am out of time. So if you guys want to say hi to me, I will do some acknowledgements right now. Hi, Bev Buck. Good to see you. Hi, Jamila Watson. Hey, how you doing too? I am actually doing really great today. Anybody else that wants to say hi? Let's see. Oh, Keto in Hawaii. Hi, Christina McMillan. Good to see you. That's awesome. I really hope I have my phone on vibrate. I should probably check. Oh yeah, there we go. Terry Solis. Good to see you. All right. Let's see. Oh, Erica Cole, Keto in the Family. Oh, I haven't seen your channel. Do you do videos? I'm going to have to check you out. Keto in the Family. I like that name. Laura Trent. Good morning. Thank you for the compliment. Good to see you. All right. So today I want to talk about a subject that I've actually been teaching to my teenagers and to my 8 to 12-year-old girls class that I am teaching for homeschool. I do like a group, kind of a group co-op on Thursdays. And I've been studying this book that is really eye-opening. It's really a quick read. They have it available on Audible, but it's called As You Think. And it's like a recreation or a redo of the original book, which was As a Man Thinketh. And you may have heard of that one because it's kind of a common title. And I read this book with my teenagers, mainly because we're teaching a philosophy class. We taught the first half of the year a scientists and mathematicians class, and now we're teaching philosophy. And so we wanted to teach these kids about how philosophies are created or about how human beings interact with the world and that kind of thing. And so we decided to read this book called As You Think. I highly recommend anybody that's on a weight loss journey to read this book because it could be life-changing for you. I resonated with a lot of the information that was given in the book. A lot of it I've already come to on my own. And I was pleased to see that I was on the right path to changing the way my body is based on how my mind works. So basically the premise of the book is that everything in your life, your circumstances, how your health is, every single thing is created right up here first. First you have a thought, and the thought becomes an action becomes a habit, and a habit becomes the way you are. And I'm sure you've heard of that before. There's memes and things like that out there that talk about that subject. But what was really interesting to me was that I actually did that without even realizing that I did it. And I was telling my teens, I know that a few of them are going through some tough times, and some of them are really feeling depressed and down, and they just don't think that they're worth anything. And that is exactly where I was on December 31st, 2017. I had been telling myself over and over and over to the point where I had become what I was telling myself, that I didn't matter to anyone, but I especially didn't matter to myself or to God or anybody that mattered, you know what I mean? And that I wasn't worth saving and that I needed to escape my life. Now, I wasn't necessarily suicidal because I knew I couldn't do that to my kids. I'm just not mean enough to do that to another human being. But me, myself, I wanted to escape. I wanted to escape my physical body. I wanted to escape my circumstances. But I'll tell you what, on January 1st, 2017, the only thing I changed in my head about what I was telling myself on a daily basis was this seed of thought. I matter. And that was the only thing I changed the very first day. I decided I mattered enough to try and save myself. I mattered enough to try something new and see if it would work, even though a million things had not worked. And that little seed of I matter over time developed into something even greater than I ever could have imagined. And here I am now, not only mattering to myself, but mattering to 5,000 of you guys and mattering to all of my friends and family, teaching a subject that is vital to so many people, and getting a chance to also talk about my belief in God and my relationship with God with whomever would like to hear about it, which apparently is a lot of you guys, which is awesome. Can I just say, such a relief to know that this world is still so full of such wonderful, great, amazing people. I have met so many wonderful people through this journey, and I'm so grateful for it. So if you guys can take anything away from our chat today, it's that you do matter. You do have control. You can change your life. You can overcome your situation. And your circumstance is created by you up here. So even if you're poor, or you're having a hard time with your house is a mess, things like that. Like they talk in the book, they talk about rich people have rich people thoughts. And it's kind of a silly thing to think about, but it really is true. Rich people think when they wake up in the morning, they have energetic thoughts, doing things kind of thoughts, and motivation thoughts, things moving forward. So if we can just change our thoughts and the way that we think about life, we can change our circumstances, or even just the way we view them. Because I'll tell you what, my financial circumstances have not changed, not immensely. My busyness has not changed. Everything that I'm doing is still the same. But I am different. And so I can deal with all of my problems in a different way than I could before when I thought I didn't matter. Now that I do matter, I approach things differently and I think about things differently. And that is how I am able to stay on this way of eating. People think that I have like the best willpower or whatever. No, really, it's just about my thoughts. I spend a lot of time thinking about making good food choices and how that will make me feel good. And don't spend a lot of time thinking about what I can't have or missing things. I think about what I enjoy, and I think about what makes me happy. And I try to find new things that I enjoy and new things that make me happy and new foods to try and things like that. And I try and focus my thoughts on those things, on the positive, on the moving forward things, rather than dwelling on the I can't, it's miserable, I'm hungry, this is too hard, nobody can really do this. I let those thoughts just go. If they come in my head, I just say, no, you gotta go. You can't be in my head. And it's just a practice thing. You just have to practice it over and over and over. It's that silly thing where you get up in the morning and you look yourself in the mirror and you tell yourself you matter. You don't have to do it that cheesy, but it's true. In the shower, I'm always telling myself good things. In the shower, I'm always saying things to bring things into my life. And I talk about how the fat is falling off of me and I don't need it. And I tell myself that over and over and over and over. I've done it for years, but I don't always listen. So sometimes you can just tell yourself things and just keep them going in the back of your head, and they can still help you even when you don't even realize that you're doing it. Does that make sense? So that is my little tidbit of info that I wanted to share with you guys today. I'm definitely open to answering your questions and helping you with your situations that you're in. Anything that you guys want to talk about, I am game to talk. So now's your chance. If you have a question, you can go ahead and post it, and I will look through the questions and see if I can find something interesting to talk about for you guys. All right. Okay. Oh, and I'll say again the book name. The book name is As You Think, and I think it's, oh man, by Mark Allen rewrote it, I believe. But it's on Audible, and it's called As You Think. And it's super short, and it's kind of cheesy if you listen to it on Audible. It was kind of like, okay, this is a little bit cheesy. It's got a lot of mood music, kind of like a relaxing yoga type feel. Might be better to just read it outright out of the book. But I'm an Audible girl these days because I just don't have time to sit down and read. The only one I actually sit down and read is the one we're reading for book club over at my Facebook, Keto Chaos Facebook. We are studying the art and science of low carbohydrate eating, and we are doing it one chapter at a time. And that's the only one I can do because on Sunday I sit down and study my chapter and then come on and talk to you guys about it. And so if you haven't tried our book club, it's not too late. You should definitely come over there. All of our discussions are still there, so you can go back and catch up. It's not hard. We're doing it in little chunks. All right. Okay. Our Life the Keto Way says she used to be just TV5. So I like that name. That's easier to say. That's great. Oh, and I appreciate that you like the family life videos. Every time I post them, I feel like I lose a lot of subscribers. This last one, I haven't lost as many as I have before. So I was grateful for that. I just like to do those for me. It's for me to go look back and have memories. We did vlog our whole Disneyland trip back in the end of October, and that was super awesome. And then I did Vlogmas and a fall challenge. And so there's a lot of our daily life in the fall videos. And I was laughing at how big I still was at the Disneyland videos, even in my face. Like, wow. Definitely, I can see why some of you who might have gone back to some of my earlier videos can definitely see the dramatic change. Because, yeah, I have lost, well, at least 50 pounds since then. And it looks awesome to me now that I can go back and look at that. I wish I would have done it from the beginning. Okay, let's see. I'm going to try and say this. Walindrika, I really hope that's right. She says, it's very scary to talk about belief in God these days. I was scared to mention it in my videos too. Yes, I completely agree. You just never know how your personal beliefs are going to be taken. And I was worried that people would attack me. I know that in the past, a lot of people have thought that the Mormon religion was kind of a little bit kooky, that we were a cult, that we had horns and tails, and I mean, there's all kinds of lovely things that have been talked about us. But no, we're just normal human beings trying to be good people and help people and, follow Jesus and all that. So it was a relief to me that I didn't lose I thought I would lose so many followers when I started talking about Jesus. And guess what? I actually gained thousands since I started doing that. So be brave. Don't be afraid to talk about God. If people don't want to hear it, they're not going to hear it. And they probably don't want to hear you anyway. If they're not interested in what you believe in personally, they're not going to stick around. Eventually, they're going to go anyway. So I didn't mind kind of throwing that in there, but I'll tell you what, that day that I made the video about my belief in God, it was the hardest video I've ever made. I had a hard time talking. I had a hard time videotaping it. And when I was editing it, it was like all the powers of hell were against me. My computer kept shutting down. My programs kept shutting down. And I kept looking up at God like, really? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Because it's not working out. And I'm about ready to trash this video and just say no. But I powered through, and I'm so glad that I did, because I have found so many more people who want to talk about their beliefs, but are, like you said, afraid to talk about it on YouTube because they don't want to come across as too churchy or, preachy. Because I'm not telling anybody that they have to believe in God. I'm just saying this is me. And I have to be honest, this is me, I mean, I am who I am. I'm not perfect. I mess up. I yell at people. I get in fights. I'm a dance mom, but I'm not like a drama causer, but I'm definitely too involved, and I get labeled as the mom that's annoying, always asking too many questions and wanting too many details. And, we all have our faults, but the thing is, we are just humans, and humans were meant to have relationships with each other. Humans were meant to interact with each other. And the fact that we can be interacting with each other in other countries and across the United States and across oceans is insane. It is such a blessing. And we are so lucky and so blessed in our world today to have that. available to us. Because even just before I got married, we didn't have that. I mean, the internet was so new. I was afraid of it. I thought it was this newfangled thing and I was never going to have it in my house. Oh, how wrong was I? I have been on the internet since 1999 or 1998 actually, and I've been addicted to it ever since then. So it can be a blessing and a curse, but more than anything, it is definitely a blessing. I love it. All right. Okay. Welcome, Tickled Lady. Cute name. All right. Okay. Sarah M. asks, does Soleil ever give you abdominal cramps? And if so, does that mean you don't need it? It can. Soleil does better on your stomach if you do it with food. I always chase mine with water. Sometimes it can give you cramps because it's taking in a lot of sodium at once. Unless you actually get diarrhea, I would say that you do still need it. But sometimes it can cause a little bit of stomach upset. So my recommendation, if it's doing that to you, is to take a smaller amount more often and try and take it with food and definitely chase it with water. Don't let it sit on an empty stomach. It's a lot of sodium to take in at once and your body needs it, but it can reject it if you take too much at once. And so sometimes you can get a little bit of stomach upset. It doesn't happen to me very often, but it does happen occasionally. So yeah, but usually I just keep on keeping on. I'm not going to mess with my Soleil because without it, I don't have energy. I have headaches. I get keto flu. I get cramping in my legs and arms, and it's just misery. So that is what I am sticking to, and that's what I preach about. So I'm going to be pretty strict about my recommendations on that. Okay, let's see. Gemma Tremblay says, the macros are always off. Can you talk about sticking closer to calories? Fat, net carbs, and protein. I'm not sure exactly what you mean. Are you saying that like if you get your macros exactly on, it's not hitting the calories exactly? I'm not sure why that would be. We did the math. It could be the entries, your entries that are not accurate. So we have it set to carbohydrates are 4 calories per gram. But we just studied, if you were doing our book club, we just studied how wet carbohydrates actually have fewer calories than dry carbohydrates. So that could be messing with your calorie count. But fat grams are pretty consistent. So fats have 9 calories per gram. And so basically, I wouldn't worry about the calories. To me, the macros are more important, especially the protein macro. You need to make sure that you have enough protein to build muscle, to keep the muscle you have and to build muscle. Dr. Finney, on his blog, VertaHealth blog, he recommends 1.8 grams per lean kilogram of body mass. And that is what we used for our macro chart that we have in our group. The group, who shall not be named, also uses that number. I think they do 2 grams, which is the higher recommendation because he recommends 1.8 to 2 grams per kilogram of lean body mass, and it's based on average. So honestly, my advice to you is hit your protein, try and keep your fats within 10 lower than your fats, and try not to exceed your fats, and keep your carbs as low as possible, as low as you want them to be. 20 is the limit. I mean, sometimes I go as high as 25, and that is net, but I don't eat a lot of bars or, ketofied things. And if I do, I try and count total carbs on those kind of things if I choose to eat those. You'll see that I do eat them occasionally. I'm kind of regretting eating the Think Thin brand because it turns out they have maltitol syrup in the coating, and it's spiking my insulin, I think. I think that might have been part of the problem I was having this month with losing. So I've given those back up. I was only having them a little bit. You saw in the videos, like at the dance competitions and stuff. But yeah, I kind of regret those. So I don't know if I'm answering your question exactly right. Feel free to ask it again in a different wording if I'm not really hitting it, because I'm not exactly sure what you're asking about the calories. But don't worry about the calories if you're following our macros. If you're not following my macros and you're doing a percentage, you want to keep your calories low. I'm not going to tell you the amount of calories you should have. My personal calories are 1266, but I eat a lot more protein, which gives me a lot more bulk in my food. So I'm able to do that fairly easily. That's a really low calorie, but because we're doing the higher protein, it's easier to do low calorie. Does that make sense? Because fats are higher in calories than protein is. I hope that answers that question. All right, let's see. I'm going to have to check out your video, Wowlindrica. I have not been to your channel, so if you think about it, will you comment on another video and remind me that I was going to check out your channel, because I've got a lot going on and I may not remember to get back to that comment, but I do want to check out new channels. Oh, every time I touch, do you see this? Every time I'm going in and out, every time I touch to scroll, it's like trying to refocus the camera. I'm really sorry. It's a new camera. Yeah. Cindy Brown says, I hate how the notifications aren't working lately. You mean on YouTube? Yeah, it's really tricky. I get all of my main comments in my creator studio, but anything that people respond to something I responded to, I don't get the notifications. So if I ignored you, I am really sorry, because I'm really trying to keep up with all the comments, but I don't get notifications on everything either. It's weird. All right. Okay. 1.8 really? Yes, it really is. If you go to Virta Health, VIRTA health.com, and go to his blog, he has a whole detailed article on protein and why he recommends it and why not to be afraid of it, and all about gluconeogenesis, which everyone has been vilifying protein in the keto world. If you watch Personalizing Health, he will tell you that that is bunk, and so will I. Dr. Finney says, don't worry about your protein. It's a lot of protein to overeat your protein. It's a lot. A lot. So what he's recommending is the normal amount, and everybody's saying it's high protein, but it's really not. It is just what you need in order to keep your lean muscle and build more. And that's why also I'd recommend not snacking, because I'm also trying to maximize muscle protein synthesis along with that higher protein. So that is why I recommend a minimum of 30 grams of protein per meal and spacing your meals 3 to 4 hours apart so that muscle protein synthesis can restart. It can't restart again if you eat an hour later. It needs 3 to 4 hours to come back down to zero, and then it goes back up. And muscle protein synthesis, I have a whole video on that, but basically it's your body when it builds muscle and repairs itself. So you want to maximize that time. That's why intermittent fasting is also good, because it gives your body a really long time. So I do 2 or 3 meals, 8 hours apart, and then, 8 or 9 hours apart. I don't always hit that 8. I try, but I don't always hit it. And then give myself a really nice long fast, an intermittent fast. And so I'm trying to maximize the intermittent fasting for fat loss, the lower fat number for fat loss, the higher protein number for muscle protein synthesis, building muscle and retaining my muscle, and combining those all together with keto to have the perfect, I don't know, it's not a trifecta, it's not a golden triangle, there's 4 of them. The perfect square, I don't know. The perfect storm for fat loss. So that's why I do things the way I do them. You don't have to do them that way. I really don't care how you guys want to do keto a different way. It's fine. I'm not going to tell you guys are eating too little protein unless you're posting it on my Facebook page, and then I will. If you say you're eating 60 grams of protein on my Facebook page, I will tell you no. I will tell you, don't do that. Eat at least 100. Eat more. It tastes better. Okay. All right. So Sasha says her calories are 1670 and she's lost 3 pounds in a week eating more food. That's totally fine. You're probably still in a deficit. So, caloric deficit is still a thing, even though we're doing keto, and we don't have to really watch calories if we're doing our macros correctly. It's still a caloric deficit thing. So me as a 214-pound woman, I'm still burning over 2,000 calories just sitting here with no exercise. So if I eat 1670, I'm still probably going to lose some fat for sure. But I prefer to lose a lot more than that, which is why I try and be under 1,300. Am I under 1,300 every day? No. Do I hit my macros perfectly every day? No. If you watch my videos, you know I do not hit my macros perfectly every day. I even had this girl on Facebook who's like, I'm trying to follow what you're eating on your What to Eat Wednesday, and I cannot get this within my macros. What am I doing wrong? And I'm like, girl, I am not hitting my macros perfectly right now. I'm lucky if I'm tracking during dance competition season. So these are ideas for meals you can try, but you still have to tweak them and portion them to fit in your own macros. So yeah, you can definitely still lose eating at a higher caloric amount if it's still a deficit, if you're not hitting a maintenance calorie level. That's totally fine. And wherever you feel good and wherever you're still losing is what you should do. I've been the same macros pretty much from the beginning. I got my macros from that site that shall not be named, Ketogenic Dieters. I should name them occasionally for those of you who are new, in case you want to go over there. It's a big, big, big group, but they have a lot of good information. That's where I learned everything from. I got my macros from there, and I've used the same macros from the beginning. I haven't changed them. The only thing I've done is occasionally have a higher fat day, or like this last month, I basically had a higher fat month. I ate without really thinking, and I ate what I wanted to eat. So now I'm cutting back again. And because that was really disappointing to me to only lose 3.5 pounds in a 4-week cycle, because usually I lose way more than that. And yeah, it could be because I'm getting closer to my goal, but I thought I'd get a lot closer to my goal before that would happen. But who knows? I mean, we'll see what happens this month. It's still a busy month. I've still got 2 nationals competitions to go to and 2 more full photo studio, like ballet portraits to do. So I may still not get back on track this month. June may have to be my month. We'll see. But yeah, keep on going. Do what's working for you. Okay. Latoya asks, should I eat that amount of protein being a diabetic? Are you type 2 diabetic or type 1 diabetic? Answer that question. If you are type 1 diabetic, I really can't give you much information on what you should do with keto and type 1. If you are a type 2 diabetic, the answer is yes. Virta Health, Dr. Finney, that is actually his recommendation for type 2 diabetics that he is personally coaching. And in fact, if you really want to, you can go pay him to coach you. He has an app that he coaches through. I do not know how much it costs, but you can go over there and be personally mentored by Dr. Finney himself, who has basically started this whole study of low carb and Atkins and all of that in order to cure type 2 diabetes. That was his entire goal, and he's doing it every single day. And yes, those type 2 diabetics are eating the recommended protein amount that he recommends. Will it raise your blood sugar slightly? Yes, it can. I don't recommend eating late at night if you are a diabetic because it can raise your morning blood sugars. So try and eat earlier in the day. If you go to Optimal Ketogenic Living, they recommend eating with your circadian rhythms in mind. So eating a big protein breakfast in the morning and then a medium protein meal. So 8 hours later or so, intermittent fast, and then don't eat after 4 or 5 p.m. I cannot do that. My schedule won't allow for that. It's insane. I tried this last week eating a couple times early in the morning, and all I was doing was starving. It just didn't work for me. But that doesn't mean it can't work for you. Definitely go over there and read all of his articles, because that is the whole point. Dr. Finney and Volek have come up with this plan because they're curing type 2 diabetes. So I hope that answered your question. All right. Halle Berry does keto and she's type 1. Yeah, you can do keto if you're type 1, but you just have to remember that type 1 diabetes is a different thing than type 2. With type 2, it just means that your body has become so insensitive to insulin over time because of overuse that it just doesn't work anymore. And so when you cut back, it cuts your insulin levels way down, and so your body can get sensitized to it again. It can cure it. But a type 1 diabetic, basically their pancreas does not work, and so they do not produce insulin. So the problem there when you're doing keto is if your blood sugars go really low, you have to be able to raise them back up. And the fastest way to do that is with fructose and glucose. I know that you can do you can do keto on type 1, and I'm sure she's monitoring her sugars constantly and she has a thing that works for her. But yeah, I mean, keto can definitely keep you more stable if you're type 1. But you don't have to do it if you're type 1. And you do need to raise your blood sugar if it goes too low. Does that make sense? All right, let's see. Yeah, I mean, she says it regulates her insulin, but technically if she has a non-working pancreas, she doesn't have any insulin from her own body. She's only got the insulin that she's putting in. Why am I out of focus? Eesh. This phone is driving me crazy. I love this phone, but it's fancy. And every time I touch it to roll it up, it's focusing on my bed instead of me. Weird. Okay. Good question. I really hope Chef Dave is not watching this video. He is probably not watching it right now. He'll probably watch it later. So I have to be careful what I say about, you guys are asking me about my husband. So, is Chef Dave on keto? Yes. Does he cheat? As far as I know, he does not cheat. But I do not monitor his food intake, nor would I ever think to do so, and I'm never going to give him a hard time about it. I really believe that he makes choices that I wouldn't make, and that's why he's basically been stalled out. So, like, he hasn't lost a pound on the scale since I started this channel. I think it was August, September, when he hit 100 pounds lost, which was 270, and he's still hitting 270 consistently on the scale. But if you look at videos of him in Disneyland, I was just watching these, he is much thinner than he was then. So he definitely has lost fat and put on muscle. But he's eating maintenance calories, so he's not really losing a lot of fat, and it's not showing up on the scale. I really don't know why, but I am not going to Dr. Keto, my husband. He is the best husband ever, and he takes good care of me, and he cooks my meals a lot of the time, and he's wonderful. Sweetest guy I know, and I would never want to say anything that would hurt his feelings, and so I'm staying out of what he eats, and he can eat what he wants. In further news, last week, my son, my 15-year-old that I was talking about, not last week, we didn't do a video last week, week before, on the last live chat, he happened to be watching. I didn't know he and Chef Dave were watching the video. They were in the car together, and my kid was watching it, and Chef Dave was listening, and he heard you guys say that he would feel better if he went on a keto diet because of his wheat allergies and his depression and struggles that he's had. So he had been leaning, and that day they had gone to the doctor, and the doctor had flat out told him he didn't need to go on keto because he wasn't big enough. And I'm like, it's not just his weight that he's concerned about. It's so much more, but the doctor doesn't understand how keto can affect depression and anxiety. It can really help mellow you out. And it's really helped me. And so I really wanted him to try it, but I mean, I'm not going to force my kid. This kid is not forcible to do anything. I'll tell you what. No. He's probably watching this right now. If you are, Oliver, I love you. But I'm so proud of him because this week he decided he is going to do it, and he is on day 3 and he is doing really well. We can't get the chronometer app to install on his stupid phone for some reason, so he's been tracking it on paper and in his head, and he asks me to look up the information for his food, and he's sticking to his macros. He's doing so great. He's been taking his Soleil water, his magnesium and all that, so I'm very, very, very proud of my son. He only has about 30 pounds to lose, but he wants to get cut. He wants to get cut because he is doing a very intense youth activity kind of thing. It's hard to explain. If you want to know more about it, you can go to heroicyouth.com. But it's like a 3 or 4 day event where they have to do a lot of running, and they have to do a lot of coaching and mentoring of younger kids. And he wants to be in better physical shape by then. And that is the 1st of September. So that is why he's chosen to do it. At least that's his short-term goal. We'll see if he feels better on it. Maybe he'll just stay that way. So that is the question about my husband. I don't know if he cheats. I'm not going to ask him that. I don't care if he does or not. I'm not going to worry about it. All right. Laura Trent asks, do your kids eat keto meals at home? And if not, how do you manage cooking different meals? No, for the most part, they don't. Mostly just because we have 9 kids, ages 22 to 2. And I can't afford to feed them keto. It's a lot. That would be a lot of meat. That's like a whole roast every day. So I have to feed them rice and potatoes because it's cheap. But like my son, if they choose that they want to go on keto, I'm 100% supportive, and I will buy them what they need, and I will totally support them in that. But I am not going to force my family to eat keto. They see me doing it. They know why I'm doing it. They know I'm doing it to be more healthy, and I am setting a good example for them. But I would never ask them to do that or try and force them to do that, because I know that that could create them just sneaking food. I mean, I have no control over them. They have to want to do it. So how do we handle that? The Instant Pot. So Chef Dave makes their meals in the Instant Pot, and he makes our meals on the stove. He throws chicken, rice, seasonings, whatever in the Instant Pot, or a small beef roast, potatoes, veggies in the Instant Pot, that kind of thing. Throws it in there, cooks it for 40 minutes, and then those of us who are doing keto do chicken or steak or something like that on this stove. And that's how we work it out. We just make 2 meals. We also have kids who have allergies. I have, like I said, my keto son, my 15-year-old, is allergic to wheat severely. He gets very depressed and angry when he has it. And then I have a daughter who is allergic to dairy. It causes her to be very constipated and also have emotional issues. And I have my baby, who's 2, who is allergic to dairy and tomatoes, and we don't know, probably other things. We haven't figured them all out yet with him. And then I've got a few who aren't allergic to things, so we just kind of play with it. We do a lot of deconstructed things. We used to do rice separate, and a lot of times we do. I don't know. It's complicated. We have to make more than 2 meals most days. Well, I should say Chef Dave does, because he does most of the dinner cooking. A lot of times the kids feed their own selves during the day, so they make their own allergen-free meals during the day. And then my husband cooks dinner most days, and sometimes I do if he's working. So that's how it works at our house. It's a little bit crazy with the food. We don't spend a ton on food. I'd say we spend probably $1,000 a month on food for the whole family. And that's pretty good for basically 4 adults and 4 adults, a son who is as big as an adult, a 16-year-old daughter, and a bunch of little girls and a baby. That's pretty good, I think. So, and we're not careful. We're not frugal. We don't do coupons, and I mean, we could save a lot more money if we did. But we buy things in bulk and do the best we can. All right. Oliver, you're totally watching my video. You're supposed to be eating your keto meal. I hope you're eating and getting ready and making sure the kids are ready so that when it's time to go, we can go. He's totally watching it. Oh, your daughter's name is Olive. Adorable. I love it so much. Such a good name. Oh, my sister is here too. Oh my goodness. Hi, Angie. Chef Dave is a steam engine, she says. One of the most generous and helpful people I know. Truer words were never said. We should all be lucky enough to marry a man like that. You know, before I met Dave, I was a total brat. I was kind of evil. I would go around to make myself feel better and date guys and break up with them to watch them cry. And it just made me feel better to be mean to people. And when I met Dave, I had the same plan for him. I was going to steal his gorgeous leather jacket, and then I was going to dump him on his butt and say goodbye. But in about 10 minutes, that boy had me won over. He was the most kind, sweet person I had ever met and treated me with such respect, like I was a princess, and I loved that. And he has changed me for the better. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be the mom that I am. I wouldn't be the person that I am. I used to be violent. I used to scream all the time. I used to be mean. And he has tempered me. He has reined me in and brought me down. And supported me through times of horrible depression, through horrible difficult situations in our lives. The fact that we are still together is a testimony to his loyalty and his wonderfulness, because if I had been married to me, I would have left me ages ago. Because there's times in my life where I sucked holy rocks and I would have left me. But he didn't. And you got to give the kid credit for that, right? He's a good boy. So I wish all of you out there who do not have a Chef Dave and are not married that you will find a prince to help you become the person that you should be. Because without him, I could never even do keto because I don't cook. I never did before. Now I am cooking so much more, but he had to be so supportive for this to happen. And he is happier about my weight loss than me. He giggles all the time when he looks at me, like a schoolgirl. And he grabs my sides and squeezes me all the time to feel my bones. Because, girls, I am smaller than when we met. He's never had his hands around me this small. And he just giggles and giggles. He thinks it's the most fun thing that's ever happened. And I love that. I think it's adorable. And, I mean, who wouldn't, right? All right. So I can't talk about Dave enough because he's awesome. All right. Lindrika says, is your husband a chef or is that only a pet name? It's actually a YouTube name. Some of my YouTube followers started calling him Chef Dave because he was always cooking the meals. He is not an actual chef for profession. Believe it or not, he is a mechanic. He works as a supervisor for our water company Fleet, and he also does like mechanics on the side. So he works 2 jobs. His second job, he works as needed over at another mechanics shop at night, and he also sometimes fixes cars here in our driveway. So he is super busy. He does all the outside work and he does the cooking. So he's kind of awesome that way, but he would love to be a chef in another life. He loves to make barbecue. He has a giant smoker that he built himself, and he uses that to, he's served 1,000 people before, maybe even more than that, at some of the youth thing that I was talking about, the heroic youth thing. We used to do a big feast, and he was the chef, and he did pulled pork and fries for 1,000 people before. So he's pretty amazing. But yeah, no, he is not an actual chef for profession. All right. Yeah, you can choose to eat off plan. Okay. I missed that other sentence, Sheila. Did I already talk about it? I'm going to scroll back up just because I want to make sure I know what she's saying. I don't know that I saw that, or maybe I skipped it, or maybe I talked about it. I don't see it. I must have missed it. Okay. Well, yeah, like if someone chooses to cheat, I'm going to say I agree with you there. I don't like to call it a cheat. So I am personally coaching a lot of people. And one of my very first Padawans was talking to me this last week. I hope she doesn't mind me sharing this story. I hope well, I don't know. I didn't ask permission to share this story. I'm not going to share her name or anything. She was going through a really difficult time emotionally. She was dealing with a huge trigger issue in her life and could not sleep. It was 4 a.m. on a night that she needed to be awake very early and be awake and teaching and doing things that she needed to do with her kids, and could not get her brain to stop. And she just knew that if she just went and ate some cookies and milk, that she would feel better and that she'd be able to sleep. So she made a conscious choice to go and have that, and it did work, and she went to sleep. The problem is that 3 days or 2 days later, when her glycogen stores were once again eaten out, what was the word? Gone. I guess gone. Gone's the word. Her body started begging her for those cookies again, and she gave in, and she was like, I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I did that, because the first time it helped me, but the second time it just made me feel sick. And what I told her is this: the first time you made a conscious choice to eat those cookies because it was what you absolutely needed. You couldn't deal with the emotions that you were dealing with at 4 a.m. You were too tired. You knew that they were something you had to deal with at a later date, that you really needed to let them go, and you really needed your sleep. So you made a choice to medicate with food. Okay, that was a conscious choice, and I do not hold it against her. What she was going through and what she was dealing with was rough. I don't know that I could have made a better choice in her situation. You have to be able to sleep, and if you have things you need to do the next day, like, I get that. I get that. It was a really difficult trigger for her. But I told her, I said, if you're going to do that, you have to go into it with a plan. You have to go into it knowing that 2 days later, your glycogen stores will be depleted. That's the word I was looking for. Depleted. And you will be asked by your body to eat more. And you need to have a game plan. What are you going to do when you have those feelings? You got to go back to the beginning of keto. You got to go back to distract. Raise your electrolytes. Eat more fats if you're really desperate. Eat more proteins if you're really desperate. Have a plan to get through that. So if you are going to make a conscious choice to go off plan for a meal, don't call it a cheat. Don't beat yourself up about it. Don't feel bad about it. Make the choice, do it, know what's going to happen, and be prepared for the consequences and have a plan on how you're going to get back on track. That is the big difference between cheating and falling off the wagon and going on a slippery slope that ends up being 3 months, and having something that's off plan and going back on plan. Whole big difference. Now, I'm not to the place where I feel like I could do that. She's done that multiple times, and this time was the first time she's ever done it with an emotional trigger, and I think that was part of the problem, is she knew that wasn't healthy. But you know what? What's done is done. But you know that if you choose to do that, beating yourself up is only going to make it worse. Do not beat yourself up. Just get right back on plan. Face the glycogen monster, face it down, tell it to go away, and get back on plan. That's the only advice I can give you on that. All right. You ate already, Oliver? Okay, good job. I think it's so weird that my kids are watching the video. Weird. Okay. All right, here we go. Good question. Laura Trent. When you eat out in a restaurant, how do you figure out your macros? I always worry mostly about hidden fats. It's hard to estimate when you don't necessarily know what things are cooked in. Yeah, obviously I've been eating out a lot recently, and really there's no way to track it exactly. I do the best that I can. So I try to eat at places that I know do a lower fat content of beef. So if you're eating a hamburger, you can usually tell the difference between a fat-ridden, yummy, delicious hamburger. So if you go to Five Guys, guaranteed that their hamburger is at least 85-15, maybe 80-20. Theirs is much fattier tasting than, say, when I go to the Chubby's restaurant, or if I go to another higher end burger place, you can tell the meat is much more dry. So I know it's 90-10. So I usually can find out at least the size of the patties. And so I put the patties in, and I estimate the veggies the best I can, usually about 60 to 100 grams of each veggie, unless it's lettuce, and then I put in like a cup and a half or 2 cups or whatever it ends up being, whatever it looks like to my eyes. I obviously cannot track it perfectly unless I bring my scale and weigh everything out separately, which takes a lot of time. You can do that. I have actually done that before, but it's just it takes a lot of time, and it draws a lot of attention and that kind of thing. I get enough attention talking to my camera every time I eat at every restaurant that I'm in. People are always looking at me like, what is she doing over there? But I do it anyway, because it's for you guys. So I try and tend to go to a place where I can get a steak and veggies, a sirloin steak and veggies. I'm not super worried about the fat that it was cooked in. If it has a little bit of extra fat, I'm not going to stress over that. Usually if I'm going out to eat, it's often like a special occasion. It's not an everyday thing, so it's not as much of an issue. If it's an everyday thing, then you're going to want to try and find out the nutrition information the best way you can. And, with their dressings, I know I'm probably underestimating how much dressing I'm using. I don't really measure it out. I just kind of eyeball it. I say, oh, it's 2 tablespoons, just kind of, I'm just guessing. And like their blue cheese dressing is probably fattier than the blue cheese dressing I'm tracking, and their ranch dressing probably the same way. I'm not like super strict about it, but that you can see from this last month eating out a lot and not being super strict about it, I only lost half the weight that I normally do. And so good chance there's lots of hidden carbs and fats that I was eating maybe that I would not normally choose to eat. But I stayed keto very well as, you know, as best I could in this situation. As long as it's not an everyday thing, I wouldn't stress over it. I just track it the best you can. If it's going to be every day, you got to find a place where you can get the nutrition info. There are places that do give it. I mean, you know, a lot of them will give it with the bun, which makes it complicated carb-wise, but you can at least get the protein and fats number from a hamburger and then just estimate the carbs yourself. Does that make sense? So I hope that answered your question. But yeah, there's no way to really get it perfect. All right. Let's see. What time is it? Ooh. I think I might be out of time. Let me check my clock. Yep, I am. Dang. Okay. One last question and then I will go. Chaya Lapine asks, I would like to know how to make the ragu sauce. Do you think Chef Dave could work it out or tell me how? We just buy it in the store. It's ragu brand Alfredo sauce. If you want to make your own, there's tons of awesome recipes online. It's basically heavy cream Parmesan cheese and some salt and pepper. That's pretty much it. There's not much else in it. So if you want to make your own, just look up Alfredo sauce online, and there's tons of recipes, and they're probably all keto because they're all pretty much heavy cream and cheese. But I just buy the store-bought stuff because it keeps longer. I can put it in the fridge. I can put a half cup on my meal and then save it for later. And it does have some carbs in it because they do add a thickener. So I think it's 3 grams of carbs per serving. No, per the serving that I'd have, like, so for the half. I don't know. I track it. I'm not exactly sure how much it is, but I put it in there. All right. Okay. One more question. Okay. Well, check out the brands for Alfredo sauces that you do have in your store and just look at the carb count and try and find some that are really low. That's what I did. That's why I chose the ragu. It has soybean oil and all kinds of not great things in it. It's better to make your own if you're going to cook. But, you know, I don't want to cook that every day. Neither does Chef Dave. Okay, one more question from Mega. Hi, Tammy, I have a question. I saw many videos on YouTube saying that if you don't do intermittent fasting, just keto alone is not going to work after some time. What's your opinion? I disagree. I think over time, keto, if you're staying in your macros, that it's not going to matter. You're eating at a caloric deficit. Intermittent fasting can spur it, can make it faster, can burn the fat faster. It's going to take you more time over time than if you're doing intermittent fasting. But honestly, I mean, if you're eating every 3 hours, you're stimulating muscle protein synthesis every 3 hours too. So like there's something to be said about that. So I would say just do whatever is working. If you're not doing intermittent fasting and you don't want to, don't. I wasn't planning on it from the beginning. I just kind of fell into it. It just seems to be like a natural rhythm with keto because you're just not that hungry. And it's just easier to cook 2 meals and eat a bigger meal than to eat 3 smaller meals. So I hope that makes sense. All right, I really have to go because I got to get my kids over to Shakespeare. I will talk to you guys later. Thank you so much, all of you who came. And I'm sorry if anyone missed it because I went early. And Nona Grace, I know you're watching this, so let's see. Give me a thumbs up if you made it this far. Anybody else too that watches this later when it's not live. I love all of you, and I'm so grateful for every single one of you. You're a light in my life, and I'm so grateful that you watch my channel. Please keep watching, and if you're new, like and subscribe and all that fun stuff. Mwah! I'll talk to you again soon.